through corroboration with observable data. So level 2 is the basis. If in under level 2, as you can notice, there is no active market as a basis, but more of observable data. So if there is no active market under level 2, it might be based on some references to some existing other industries for the said price itself. And finally, level 3, the least reliable, take note, the least reliable measurement or hierarchy for fair value is unobservable inputs such as entities' own data or assumptions. So the last basis will be the internal or management decisions or internal decisions, some estimates, no? Fair value is not based merely on estimates kasi if fair value is based on estimates, we are under level 3 for unobservable inputs. So this is the interpretation of hierarchy of the fair value as a basis, no? Saan ba kinukuha yung fair value sa accounting? Here is the answer for the based on the accounting standards. So again, level 1, based on the quoted price or external factor or reason, the active markets will serve as a basis kung anong magiging basis, kung ano ang magiging fair value ng said item under accounting. Just in case wala, please remember ang pangalawang basis or hierarchy, the next in line is observable data. So some quoted prices or inputs other than quoted prices under level 1 will serve as a basis. And just in case wala pa rin, level 3, unobservable inputs or dito na rin pumapasok yung mga internal decisions or management reasons or decisions to estimate the said amount as far as fair value is concerned. No? So yun lang yung simple standards natin for fair value. We remember the definition. We remember the basis of fair value and the hierarchy or order of priority of fair value. And just in case you are asked as to the how to compute fair value, slide number 6, this will serve as a basis as far as accounting is concerned. Okay, let's move forward with our second accounting standard is PAS 37. For PAS 37, these are all about liabilities, accounting standard, merely for provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets. I hope in your financial accounting, you already solved something about estimated liabilities or provisions. So PAS 37 is all about that. It's a liability accounting standard dealing with provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets. So for the learning objectives, we need to state the recognition criteria for this liability, the so-called provisions, differentiate the different accounting requirements. For provision, anong difference ba nun between provision versus contingent liability, or what is a contingent asset? And finally, describe the measurement of a provision. So far guys, as you can notice in CFAS or theory of accounts, we encounter a lot of definitions, and just in case the definition is not the question, we are being asked as to the disclosure. We are being asked as to the disclosure requirements when it comes under notes to financial statements and under different financial statements as a basis. No? So let's start PAS 37 about provisions. Of course, number 1 dyan, liability. As a liability, the definition of what is a provision. Again, a provision is a liability, guys, generally considered as a current liability. However, the main point of difference is that provision is a liability of, take note, uncertain timing or amount. If the question is certain ang timing or amount, that is basically a definition of a liability. But provision as a liability should be uncertain. No? What do we mean by uncertain in accounting? It may happen, it may exist, or it might not exist, or it might not happen. Uncertain, may or may not happen. So uncertain timing or amount. But why do we need to record the provision as a liability? So that is the main question or concern for this accounting standard. When do we recognize a provision as a liability? So second bullet, provisions differ from other liabilities because of the key term is uncertainty. Uncertain. If the liability is uncertain, malamang it is falling under this accounting standard for provisions. If liability is certain, definitely that is the basic definition of what is a liability. So, uncertainty about the timing or amount of expenditures required in settlement. And provision is a liability, but unlike other liabilities, provisions must be estimated. Although some other liabilities are also estimated, their uncertainty is generally much less than for provisions. No? So in your financial accounting, you're going to compute some estimated ways or measurement for provisions and basically it's an estimated liability. Sample of provisions are warranties. No? Warranties refresh from department store if you're gonna buy an appliances. You're gonna buy some appliances in the department store. There's a warranty for 1 year, something like that. So that the said warranty is like a provision. Others, gift certificates. No, so the mall issued or the store, the shop issued the gift certificates are recording the said GC as a provisions or estimated liability because the customer may or may not redeem such, diba? Not everyone who are accepting GCs or promo or warranties avail such, diba? Kasi kung maayos naman yung nabili natin, we don't need the said warranty. But the said store is recording the said warranties as an estimated liability, which might be falling under the concept of provisions. Okay? Other liabilities such as accruals are reported as part of trade and other payables, whereas provisions, take note, is a separate line item for the statement of financial position. This is reported separately. Okay? Please take note and remember what is all about provisions. Now, the point of comparison. What is provision and what is contingent liability? So far guys, past 37 is about estimated liabilities. And we already saw that provision is a liability that should be recognized separately with other liabilities. But what about contingent liabilities? So these are some key terms. I already summarized this one for this slide number 4. Take note guys, provision is a present obligation, whereas contingent liability is a possible obligation. Provision is a probable and measured reliably, whereas contingent liability is a present obligation but not probable, or present obligation but not measured reliably. So see the difference between provisions and contingent liabilities? The key term for provision is it's probable. In accounting, when do you recognize that it is a probable liability? For us to know that it is a provision. Because as mentioned here, if it is a provision, you recognize such as a separate liability line item in the statement of financial position. Answer, as far as rates or percentage is concerned, is above 50%. And is above 50% chance that the said item will be a liability. It is a liability. Above 50% chance that it is a liability. Therefore, the said term is probable. Okay? When it is possible, ayan kasi nakasulat dito, if it is possible, it's not a provision, but a contingent liability. When is the chance that the said liability is only a possible liability or obligation? If it is below 50% of chances. 50% of chance that it will be a liability. So it's only a possible liability or obligation, is only contingent liability, not a provision. Okay? I hope you remember those key terms. Therefore, provision should be recognized on the face of the financial statement, specifically the statement of financial position, generally speaking, current liability. Contingent liability should not be recognized, should not be accrued in the statement of financial position, but should be disclosed in the notes to financial statements. Okay? That's the main point of difference. So provision, probable. Contingent liability might be a possible obligation. Provision, above 50% chance that it is a liability. Contingent liability, below 50% chance that it will be a liability. So that's why it's possible. Provision, face of the financial position, face of the financial statement, the statement of financial position. Contingent liability, notes to financial statements. Tapusin ko lang before I open the chat box later. This is the continuation for provisions. It is recognized when all of the following conditions are met. So you will now answer from the summary. This is a summary of the key terms. This is now the complete picture to recognize the provision. Take note of these items, all of these items or conditions should be met by provisions to be recorded as a liability. Number one, because the entity has a present obligation, legal or constructive obligation as a result of past event. Take note, legal obligation is from your RFBT. So legally speaking, talagang there's a obligation. So you already know what is obligation from RFBT. If it is constructive obligation, it came from agreements between entities or business transactions. No? Number two, it is probable. So higher chance that there will be an outflow of resources. Embodying economic benefits will be required to settle the obligation. So as you can see, item number two is like a liability definition, diba? So probable and higher chances, therefore, of outflow. That is a definition of liability as well, outflow of economic resources, diba? So higher chances that we gonna pay or have a higher outflow of resources. In short, it is a liability, so it is probable, it is a provision. And finally, it's not enough that it is probable and it's above 50%. Number three, you should reliably estimate such. What will be your basis as a measurement? Percentage ba yan? Units of sales, number of transactions. So there should be a reliable estimate. And the said reliable estimate can be made of the amount of the obligation. Of course, because provision will be recorded on the face of the financial statement, the statement of financial position. Therefore, there should be an equivalent amount for such. Therefore, we need to have a reliable estimate. What will be the basis of the reliable estimate? It will depend on the provision. Sometimes it can be based on the average. It can be based on some management practices or experience of the management, or when it comes to the estimated liabilities. So it might vary as well when it comes to the items of provisions. So another summary, therefore, if it is a present obligation is probable, therefore, we recognize or accrue such as a provision if outflow of economic benefits is both probable and reliably estimatable or estimatable, provide appropriate disclosures. However, only possible is a contingent liability, disclosure only, notes disclosure. Do not recognize or accrue a liability if it is contingent liability, only a notes disclosure. However, take note, another one arises for slide number 6, remote obligation or liability. Remote obligation, ignore, do nothing. So, when do you know that it is a remote obligation or liability? Based on the interpretation of the accounting of these accounting standards, based on percentage is 10% or less. Kung kanina, provision is probable, more than 50% chances. So 51% or more. Mas malaking chance na liability siya. Probable provisions. Kanina, contingent liabilities, possible because 50% or less lang yung chance niya maging liability. Notes disclosure. Pag remote liability or remote obligation, 10% or less lang yung chance na magiging kayo ay or sasagutin kanya. Ay, iba pala yun. As you can see, pag remote obligation, do nothing. Huwag mo na daw pa siyang pansinin. Pag 10% or less lang daw yung chance mo sa kanya na maging liability siya. Okay? This is a basic summary of this accounting standard about provisions. Lumalabas lagi sa theories. The main point of difference between provision, estimated liability, and finally the remote obligation. So Sa accounting standards, they did not include a specific percentage. But in financial accounting interpretation, we recognize such based on the percentage. Again, probable, more than 50%, 51% or more. Possible, below 50%. Remote, ignore. Parang pag-ignore niya sa'yo, 10% or less. Let's move forward. So, in terms of the measurement, the nature of the outflow, ito, yung sinasabi ko kanina, estimates, no? Ito na yung isang basis nyo guys sa estimates because not everything is based on a specific measurement. Pwedeng mag-iba-iba. As a nature of outflow, as a general rule, the best estimate. So, ang best estimate usually is based on the industry or the entity's practices. Like, you are in the mall business na for 5 years, you already have an experience for the last 5 years now. 50% of the customers are only availing the GC, the gift certificate. Not everyone are availing, di ba? O di yun, that is the best estimate based on the previous experiences of the entity. So, sasabihin naman ng problem yan sa financial accounting. However, kung hindi, number 2 involves a large population of items. Expected value is the measurement basis. Take note of the theory. Or probability or weighted average. You will solve such in accounting. Lastly, each expected outcome in a range. Pag range naman daw yung provision or yung estimated liability, midpoint daw yung basis. So, I guess you're all done with the statistics. What is all about midpoint, yung gitna, of course, or parang a basic or typical averaging of the different items. You will solve such in accounting. Pero here, ang role ko sa accounting standard na ito is for you to remember the measurement basis. Okay? So, next, sometimes there are different provisions that might require present value. So, we are going to use present value where the effect of the time value of money is material. The amount of the provision shall be the present value of the expenditures expected to be required to settle the obligation. Usually, we use present value if it is on a long-term basis, diba? Or beyond a year. So the difference when it comes to the price changes is material. Present value can serve as a basis for the said liability. Usually, you use present value in different financial instruments, in bonds or notes payable or receivable. Dito, there are chances since it is a liability as well, like for notes payable and bonds payable, there are chances that provisions should be based on the measurement of present value in case the effect or the time value of money is material, meaning the price changes is material for the provision. Because, di ba, there are some warranties that is for 2 years or 3 years or lifetime, diba? So the cell phone's warranty is lifetime or 5 years, ganyan. So more than a year. Long term, usually they use present value or amortize such, diba, sa bangko. So yan, present value can be a potential basis or measurement basis for provisions. Okay? Paano nyo malalaman sa financial accounting na you're gonna use present value? Basically, they're gonna provide you the present value factors. Pwedeng present value factor of 1 or annuity due. And somehow, the key is it's merely long-term basis. Pero pag medyo short-term lang, 1 year or less lang, ganyan, generally, you're not gonna assume any present value. So, there are hints that you're gonna use present value. Next, this is additional interpretation of the accounting standard for provisions. Expected disposal of assets. Gains from the expected disposal of assets, take note, shall not be taken into account in measuring the provision. So wag mo daw idadagdag yung gains from the said expected disposal of asset in case you're gonna measure or recognize the amount of the provisions. Wag muna daw, separately lang siya. Take note, as you can see here, gains shall be recognized only when the assets are actually disposed of. So, take note of any gains you encounter for provision should not be taken into account as far as the liability provisions is concerned. Okay? How about reimbursement? Where some or all of the expenditures required in settling a provision is expected to be recognized or to be reimbursed by another party, the reimbursement is recognized only when it is virtually certain. So, pag virtually certain, higher chances, near to 100% chance that it is really a reimbursement, di ba? That's the meaning of virtually certain. That the reimbursement will be received in the entity settles the obligation. So, the reimbursement shall be treated as a separate asset. Reimbursement. Uh, Example nito, another type of provisions sa mga sinasolve nyo sa financial accounting is some marketing promos, some marketing promotional events or activities of the entity na nagbebenta. So example, the entity is selling canned goods, mga delata. Tapos nakasulat din doon, if you're gonna buy 10 canned goods, the exchange of 10 cans will give you one free t-shirt. Diba? However, you're gonna pay 10 pesos for you to avail the t-shirt. Yan yung sinasabi niyang reimbursement, no, as you can notice. Actually, there's a debit to cash there when you're gonna do financial accounting. So, reimbursement shall be treated as a separate asset. No? As provision yun eh. Baka kasi may magpapalit from the marketing promo. Eh, ang duration ng marketing promo na yun hanggang December 30, 2023. Eh, magjo-July pa lang. So, baka maraming magpapalit ng t-shirt. So, the said promo is a provision. Rina-record yun sa financial accounting, you're gonna do that. However, kung may kailangan pang ibayaran, kung may kailangan pang bayaran si customer, that is the reimbursement in slide number 10. As you can see, the reimbursement shall be treated as a separate asset. The reimbursement shall, in the statement of profit or loss and OCI, the expense relating to the provision may be presented net of the amount of the recognized reimbursement. So it's allowed in this accounting standard when it comes to the net amount of the reimbursement versus the expenses relating to the liability, which is provision. Okay. Changes in provisions. Provisions, take note, shall be reviewed at the end of each reporting period and adjusted to reflect the current best estimates. You will encounter in financial accounting problems na sometimes after a year, open pa yung promo, meron pa yung warranty, biglang nagpalit ng estimates. Okay lang yun sa provisions. You're gonna adjust. You're gonna do adjusting entries to reflect the different changes of the said estimates kasi estimated liability siya. So, therefore, provisions is required by this accounting standard to be reviewed at least at the end, dulo, of each reporting period. However, if it is no longer probable that an outflow of resources embodying economic benefits will be required to settle the obligation, the provision will be reversed. So therefore, hindi na natin i-report siya as a liability. Pag natapos na, example, natapos na yung warranty, 3 years na ang dumaan. Yung 3-year warranty, the 3 years passed by already. The promo is good for 6 months, December 30, and it's already January 1. So the promo lapses already. There's no existing provision. So changes in provisions, it will revert back. It will not be recorded as a liability anymore. Here are the samples, no? Product warranties and guarantees mostly are the provisions, problems you're gonna solve in financial accounting. So, product warranties and guarantees, if a customer has the option to purchase a warranty separately, for example, because the warranty is priced or negotiated separately, the warranty is recorded or measured under PFRS 15 or yung natapos natin kanina, PFRS 15 rather, the revenue, the accounting standards for revenue from contracts with customers. I believe that for next session, we're gonna have PFRS 15, I believe. So that's another additional note for that one. Pag binibili daw as an add-on, di ba you encounter such if you're buying a gadget or buying something from the mall or some other items, meron yung mga shops that would ask you, would you want to buy a warranty for this one? Diba? And if it is a separate one, therefore, it is recognized not in this provision, not in this accounting standard for provisions, but for the accounting standards for revenues, which is PFRS 15. Okay? Pero kung hindi naman siya separately sold, talagang kasama na siya sa price ng item na binebenta natin, na binebenta ng entity. Therefore, we don't record separately under PFRS 15. It's really part of the price for the said promo or for the said items. There's nothing additional disclosure for such. Next one, if a customer does not have the option to purchase a warranty separately, the warranty is accounted for in accordance. Therefore, yung sabi ko, past 37, ito yung pinag-uusapan natin for provisions. Unless the promised warranty provides the customer with a service in addition to the assurance that the product complies with agreed upon specifications. Ayan, nakasama na sa price na binili ng customer sa atin, tayo yung entity na nagbebenta, yung warranties, yung estimated liabilities na counter na ini-estimate basically natin for the entity. So there's no need to record additional disclosures or use PFRS 15. Ang sinasabi lang naman niya rito, we are using PFRS 15 as additional disclosure just in case binabayaran ng customer natin, customer na entity natin, yung additional warranties or add-ons para maka-avail ng warranties. Okay? So, pag binabayaran separately, include PFRS 15 for revenues as part of the disclosures or accounted as part of PFRS 15 for revenues. Just in case no additional disclosures, everything will fall under past 37 as far as product warranties and guarantees are concerned. Okay? Next one. Ito yung sinasabi kong marketing promo kanina. Like yung entity natin is selling canned goods. And for every 10 cans in exchange of t-shirt plus 10 pesos na amount of money, that is the so-called premiums. Another problems for provisions. You're gonna solve such in financial accounting. Liability for premiums. Class, take note, this is not share premium. This is not the premiums you learned in the bonds investment topic or equity topic. Premiums here in my accounting standard for past 37 is an inventory. Inventory ito ng entity natin. Because premiums are the t-shirt from the promo ng entity natin na nagbebenta ng tin cans or canned goods rather. Okay? So, liability for premiums, a customer option to acquire additional goods or services naman for free or at a discount is accounted for under PFRS 15 if the option provides the customer a material right that the customer would not receive without entering into that contract. Just in case the customer option, a customer option that does not provide the customer with a material rights is not accounted for under PFRS 15, magpo-fall lang siya or mag-stick under past 37 for provisions. The marketing promos for premiums, this serve as a liability for premium. So, if it is just a typical marketing promo, like yun nga, buy one, take one, my free t-shirt from the Delata, ganyan, it is falling under past 37. Is a provision. Yung pa-promo mo, yung merchandise na promo mo is a premium. And premium is an inventoriable item. May journal entries yan sa financial accounting when you reach the financial accounting side. However, sabi niya again, there's a customer option to acquire additional goods or services, sabi niya, and therefore the customer will need to pay additional amount of money, add-on, and so on. Again, any cash that is flowing from the said provision or coming from the said marketing promo is recorded as under PFRS 15 for revenues. In case the customer has a material right. Pero usually in financial accounting, if there is no other statements otherwise, we are recording everything under past 37 for provisions. Wala pag materiality concept or wala namang binanggit, there's nothing about material concept or material things for the said promo or the said items. Okay? So some addition add-ons, these are just some add-ons or additional interpretation or knowledge lang for product warranties and guarantees, liability for premiums falling under provisions. Next one, another one, guarantee for indebtedness of others. Somewhere in RFBT, we're gonna discuss this one. So a provision for the guarantee for indebtedness or obligation of others is recognized when it becomes probable that the entity will be held liable for the guarantee, such as when the original debtor defaults on the loan. So, guarantee concept na ito sa RFPT or business laws. So, ang sinasabi niya rito, as far as the provision is concerned, we recognize such if still falling under the probability or probable definition. And the rest will be legally constructed under the said loan agreement or contract. So, hindi na natin sakop yun sa ating accounting standard. Ang focus lang natin is just in case the said provision came from guarantees or indebtedness, kung probable ba, record it as an estimated liability or under this accounting standard for provisions. Next one, the other side is contingent asset. Yan. Kanina kasi we encountered a contingent liability, no? So just in case you encountered a contingent asset as well, a contingent asset is if the contingent asset is probable, where did the contingent asset came from? From the previous slides here. Starting off with here, coming product warranties, guarantees, liability for premiums, and guarantee for indebtedness, just in case from the said provisions or estimated liability, in the future, you will receive a probable inflow. Yan. Provision kasi is outflow kanina eh. Just in case there's an additional inflow because maybe due to interest, maybe due to some other agreements based on the contracts or based on the contracts or the obligations, di ba? A possible inflow might arise that might be a contingent asset. Our concern, if the contingent asset is probable, disclose only as a contingent asset in the notes to financial statements. Do not recognize or accrue. Okay, please remember, the common mistakes in this accounting standard of the students in college is they misinterpreted contingent asset as a contingent liability. Guys, contingent liability was discussed somewhere here a while ago. Where is that? Here, slide number 6. Contingent liability, possible, notes disclosure, do not recognize or accrue. Whereas contingent asset is here. Slide number 15. If the contingent asset is probable, the same with contingent liability as you can see, only a note disclosure, right? Do not recognize or accrue in the face of the statement of financial position. However, the contingent asset is only possible 50% or less chance that it will be an asset in the future, that you will receive the said asset, diba? Do nothing, ignore immediately. That's the main point of difference. The rest, if the contingent asset is remote, still ignore, do nothing. That's the main point of difference, okay? Between the contingent liabilities and the contingent assets. You're just gonna recognize it as a note disclosure if in case it is a probable contingent asset. Again, probable, more than 50% chance that it will be an asset. Possible, less than 50% chance that it will be an asset, so ignore, do nothing, do not report or have a notes disclosure. If it is remote contingent asset, 10% or less chance that it will be an asset in the future, so still do nothing. Okay, so this for contingent assets. That's the end of past 37 about provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets. We will apply this one in the financial accounting chapter for solving our computations. Okay. Before I reach the final accounting standard for tonight, past 7, I'll open the chat box. More ano yun? Wait. Yes, umulan kanina. Waiting room. I already accepted everyone. I believe. 5 times 2, uncertain. 10 times 2, uncertainty. Uncertainty. I don't get it. 5 times 2, uncertain. 10 times 2, uncertainty. 5 times. Can you explain what is the message? I don't get it. Contingent liability disclosure only. Yes, correct. Pag saktong 50%, pag saktong 50%, ibig sabihin there's no greater chance na it will be a liability, di ba? So possible lang 50%. Probable 51% or more, kumbaga ang interpretation nun. Di ba? Kasi more than pag 51%, majority na yun out of the 100% na it will be a liability, di ba? So probable na 51%. Pero kung 50%, 50-50 pa. 15 hindi, 15 oo. So possible pa yung 15, 50% na sakto. Contingent liability pa yun siguro. Epekto sir na ulan ba yan? Yeah, it rained hard here I'm currently in Pangasinan, so it's a rainy season. More than 50% double sir para provision. Yes, 51% or more. So do not round off. 50.01, 02. There is 0.01 chance already that it will be a liability. So more than 50% na yun. So probable na pa rin talaga. Ano daw? Remote chance. Remote chance. Yeah, remote 10% or less, ignore. Parang pag-ignore niya sa'yo. Exact 50, nasagot ko na yan. Exactly 50%. Ayan. Ano daw? 100% asawa, 50% jowa, 10% as a friend. Bagyo as a friend ba? 10%. Yes, 100% asawa kasi liability mo na talaga yung asawa mo eh. Till death do us part na kayo. So 100% na talaga. Liability na yan. Hindi yan under past 37. Ang concern natin, pag below 100%, kaya siya nagiging estimated liability, kaya may past 37 tayo. So yung asawa mo, hindi nasa past 37. Nasa past 1 siya, tapos na natin yun kasi nandoon yung definition ng liability. Liability, 100% chance na talagang may outflow. 50% jowas, contingent liable lang siya, notes disclosure lang. Pag as a friend, ignore mo daw 10%. Okay. May kumakatok. Saan? Nasa waiting room. Let's check. Okay. 22 yung messages. Possible. Possible? Yeah, possible 50% or less. 50%. Ay, nasagot ko na yung 50% exact. 10 times, ano yun? 10 times 2 unsweat 20. Ay, 5 times 2, certain. 10 times answer 20. Answer 20. Kaya uncertainty. Ano yun? Bala ka na dyan. Uncertainty, answer 20. Virtually, sir, kailan ba masasabi ang virtually certain? Virtually certain is almost 100%. So parang let's say 90% or more, but not exactly 100%. Pag 100% talaga, talagang liability definition siya sa past 1 eh. Pag nag-fall below 100%, kaya tayo ma-estimated liability na past 37 na accounting standard. So virtually certain, almost 100%, but not exactly 100%. So like 90% or more based on interpretations in financial accounting. Virtually certain. Anan. 5 times 2, uncertain. 10 times 2, uncertainty. 5 times 2, uncertain po. Uncertain. 5 times 2, uncertain. 5 times 2, ang answer ay 10. So, uncertain. 10 times 2, uncertainty. Okay. Sige na dyan. Oo. Dito talaga asset as gets. Oo, na-gets ko na rin. Uncertain, uncertain. Okay. Dadalhin ko yan sa UC pag past 37 na ulit ang topic namin. Yun ang tatandaan nila. Uncertain and uncertainty. Bahala na kayo. Ano ba siya? Wala na atang questions eh. Ano bang, ba't ba ako nagbabasa ulit? Passing score namin para sa quizzes. Of course, kalahati. Half para possible chances that you're gonna pass, right? So kalahati dapat at least. Sir, meron din po bang standard covering barter asset and barter liabilities? As far as past or PFRS are concerned, we did not mention or we did not encounter barter anymore because in business laws or commercial laws, like barter is not one of the main business transactions or a prohibited transaction. So barter assets, I can't remember any items about barter assets or liabilities. Percentages. Can someone enter what our summary for percentages? Paulit mo yung percentages. Probable, possible. Nag-lag po. Sige na nga. Probable, more than 50%. So it might be a provision. So you need to account such as a liability. So in short, more than 50%, 51% or more, parang ganon. Possible, 50% or less na chances. So possible, only contingent liability, notes disclosure, 50% or less. Pero pag remote obligation, usual interpretation nun, 10% or less chances na it will be a liability. So ignore. Do not do anything if it is remote obligation. Okay, let's move forward, guys. I think so we can finish early maybe and you enjoy the rest of the night of your holiday. So I think I already answered all the questions here. Let's check the quizzer later on for PAS 37 and PFRS 13. Now I'm gonna move forward with PAS 7, the last accounting standard for tonight. Ayan, review the statement of cash flows. So another financial statement that we need is the statement of cash flows. I provided here for PAS 7 because a lot of students tend to forget or forgot the content of PAS 7 for cash flows. They misinterpreted or they forgot to differentiate the different activities for the statement of cash flows. Now, for PAS 7 here in my presentation, I summarized everything. What is all about the statement of cash flows, the different activities, there are three, and the classification of the some other important items to be recognized in the statement of cash flows. So here we go. Definition of the statement of cash flows. I hope you remember para in case tanongin sa inyo, the statement of cash flows based on PAS 7 provides information about the sources and utilization, take note, of only cash, including cash equivalents. So cash plus cash equivalents during the period. The statement of cash flows presents cash flows according to the following classifications. OIF, OIF. Only three. Operating. O stands for operating activities. I, investing activities. F, financing activities. So in short, guys, pag sinabing cash flow is just an inflow and outflow of the different cash-related activities. Sir, how about non-cash activities? So are we going to encounter or mention here in the statement of cash flows? Should we report it here? It might depend on the method you're going to use later on. So we're going to go with that one. But please remember, basically, it's about cash-related activities in accounting. It's about statement of cash flow, therefore. Statement of cash flows, therefore. From the term itself is somehow self-explanatory that anything cash-related activities is falling under statement of cash flows and should be recognized under such. There are only three activities. No? So let's have the first activity, operating activities. When we say operating activities under statement of cash flows, it includes only transactions that enter in the determination of profit or loss. Ano ibig sabihin daw ng definition na yun? Activities lang daw na nakakaapekto sa pag-compute ng profit or loss is falling under operating activities. Therefore, as you can see in slide number 4, these transactions normally affect only income statement accounts. Okay? Dadagdagan ko yan. Tapusin ko lang sandali. Investing activities include transactions naman that affect long-term assets, and other non-operating assets. And finally, the third activity, financing activities, include transactions that affect equity plus non-operating liabilities. Okay, let's discuss it more. First, operating activities daw, operating nga day-to-day transactions. Therefore, look for all the transactions involving current assets and current liabilities. It might affect your operating activities for the statement of cash flows. Okay? Because guys, in operating activities, sabi ng past 7, we can interpret or use two methods. There are two methods that we can account for under operating activities. What are those methods? The so-called direct method and indirect method. When we say direct method, simple lang. Cash inflows minus cash outflows. That's it. Direct method. And all of these three activities, we can use direct method in past 7. Again, when you do financial accounting, I think it's one of the last chapters for financial accounting. Operating activities, either you're gonna account such direct method, total cash inflows minus total cash outflows. That's it. All the said method is all acceptable to all activities. It can be investing activities as well. You can use direct method. Same with financing activities. But in operating activities, there might be a second method. Anong tawag sa method na yon? Kung direct method yung isa, of course, indirect method. So, in indirect method for operating activities, you're gonna start off with net income computation. Let me check if I included such here. Only samples. None. Yeah, here. Direct method and indirect method. I included it here. Only operating activities we can use indirect method. Here, it's just the total cash inflows or total cash receipts minus total cash outflows or gross cash payments, direct method. All activities pwedeng gamitin. Sabi ng past 7. Pag indirect method, operating activities lang siya. Pwedeng magamit. Sa indirect method, in your financial accounting side, pag nag-accounting na kayo nito, the first item is net income. Then plus or minus any related current assets or current liabilities. Under indirect method yun. Take note ha, only operating activities. You should use indirect method. Hindi pwede dun sa other activities, investing tsaka financing. So therefore, in indirect method, you're gonna encounter the different current assets and current liabilities, changes or effects. Sa indirect method siya makikita. Then, include as well in the indirect method, non-cash items. Okay, so pag non-cash items like non-cash expenses, add sa indirect method. Naka-add siya, indirect method. Non-cash expenses. Can you give me an example of non-cash expense? Ayun, I saw in the chat box. Depreciation expense, amortization expense are some samples of indirect method, non-cash expenses. Pag non-cash expenses under indirect method, naka-add siya. Pag non-cash income under indirect method, nakabawas. Should be deducted. Can you give me a non-cash income? Ayan, gain on sale of PPE. Ayan, mga yan. Gain on sale of the other assets and the rest. No? So, non-cash income, naka-add back in indirect method. But you are using direct method, ignore the rest of the non-cash items. Direct method is just total cash inflow minus total cash outflow. Okay? Operating activities, investing activities, a summary of operating activities, so day-to-day operations or transactions like sale, of course, the typical sale transactions, investing activities, non-cash, non-current assets. So in investing activities, you're gonna, every time the entity will buy PPE, non-current items or long-term investments, you're gonna purchase, that is an outflow. You're gonna sell your machinery, your PPE, that is an inflow that will fall under investing activities. Okay? Only non-current assets, activities related transactions should falling under investing activities. And lastly, financial activities, non-current liabilities, and equity transactions. So stocks, bonds, which is a non-current liabilities, should fall under financing activities. Okay? So I mentioned those activities. However, these are the samples. Just read. Let's read together the different samples. So if you encounter this one in your financial accounting, so you know, or you should already know what activities should fall in these related samples or transactions. So let's take a look for operating activities. Aside from the one I mentioned a while ago, letter A, cash receipts from sale of goods, rendering of services, or other forms of income. Cash is a current asset. Therefore, basically it is falling under operating activities. No? Cash inflow, letter A. Letter B, cash payments, cash outflow yan, of purchases of goods and services. Payments of operating expenses such as employee benefits, insurance, and the like, and payments of refunds or of income taxes is falling under cash payments or outflow siya in short under operating activities. And finally, cash receipts and payments from contracts held for dealing or trading purposes. So as you can see, it's all current items. Under current asset or current liabilities, just remember those things. It is falling under operating activities. Okay? A while ago, I provided you some sample for investing. So here are more samples or activities that will fall under investing. Letter A, cash receipts and payments in case you acquire or dispose or sell PPEs, investment properties, intangible assets, and other non-current assets. As you can notice, the transaction is about non-current assets. No? For as long as it is a non-current asset, it is falling under investing activities. Letter B, cash receipts and cash payments in the acquisition and sale of equity or debt instruments of other entities other than those that are classified as cash equivalents or held for trading. Letter C, cash receipts and cash payments on derivative asset, long-term yung mga yan, and liabilities other than those that are held for trading or classified as financing activities. Letter D, loans to other parties and collections thereof other than loans made by a financial institution. Kasi pag financial institution naman yan, typical na operating activities nila yan. So sometimes there's a trick. It will be a bank or financial institution yung entity. Of course, pag banks are finance or loans, financing activity kasi yun for a typical entity. Pero pag banko yun, yung entity, ang mga concept ng loans or financing sa kanila are it's their typical operating activities. So, yun yung isang twist doon minsan pag nagpalit na institution. As you can see from the bracket, from the open and close item, other than loans made by a financial institution. Okay? So, these are samples. More I provided for financing activities. Basta pag financing, long-term, non-current liabilities, tsaka equity-related, gaya ng letter A, cash receipts from issuing shares or other equity instruments and cash payments to redeem them. If it is cash receipts, inflow. If it is cash payment, is an outflow. Should be under financing activities pag shares or equity instruments ang usapan. Letter B is non-current liability. So financing activity din siya. So cash receipts from issuing notes, loans, bonds, mortgage payable, and other short-term or long-term borrowings and their repayments. So usually should be long-term or non-current liabilities lahat yan nagpo-fall. No? Pag current, nandun siya usually sa operating activities. And lastly, cash payments by a lessee. So darating tayo dyan, what is lease? For the reduction of the outstanding liability relating to a lease. Lease is somehow a long-term rent, umuupa or upa. So lease is a long term. So as you can see, it's falling under financing activities. So usually those are questions. Which of the following is operating activities or part of operating activities? Which is not all of the above, none of the above. So these are just a summary of everything. Operating, investing, and financing. Now, here are some under summary. Remember the following finally. Therefore, again, operating activities, it affects profit or loss. It involves current assets and current liabilities. Investing activities, I already mentioned this one, non-current assets, or in short, the investments and PPE, intangible assets, and acquisition or sale, investing activities latter. Finally, financing activities, it affects borrowings, but long-term borrowings, non-current liabilities, and of course, equity or share capital or shareholders' equity. Okay? Summary. So as a core principle, when preparing statement of cash flows, include only the transactions that have affected uh, cash and cash equivalents, such as purchase of assets by paying cash. Exclude transactions that have not affected cash and cash equivalents unless you are using indirect method. Indirect method kasi, di ba, may mga non-cash expense or non-cash items. So, such as purchase of assets pero you issued notes payable or shares of stocks, there is no related cash, so it should not be reported or included in the statement of cash flows unless it's an indirect method that might be possible under operating activities. Okay? Here, guys, slide number 10 is another summary of some other items that might be subject to difference or changes. No, these are some of the special items. Maybe we consider it as somehow special items that some interpretations would say otherwise or not, or some students tend to forget or forgot this summary. Here, for interest and dividends, di ba? Did you get curious? How about interest income or interest expense? It is falling somehow, minsan, sometimes under current asset or current liabilities. What will be the basis? So here is the summary. This is according to the interpretations of past 7. It's not really directly mentioned that this is the first basis and this is the option 2 and so on. It's an interpretation of financial accounting side for past 7. And in theory of accounts, we answer it this way. For the option 1, that will serve as the initial basis. The best answer is falling under option 1. However, option 1 is not stated, you go with option 2. Let's have it one by one. Interest income received. We know that interest cash flows from interest income. Of course, interest income can be on a cash basis or we consider a cash related amount from there. Just remember, interest income should be falling under operating activities. Option 1 as an operating activities. General rule, no? However, if there are no other statements that would somehow otherwise state such, let's go with option 2, investing activities, no? When would option 2 would happen or occur? Usually, you follow the principal instrument. You follow the principal item. If the interest income came from non-current asset, option 2, investing activity din siya. Diba? However, kasi, the only item in the statement of financial position given is interest income. This is the case for slide number 10. Here is the rule or scenario somehow. However, if you have in the statement of financial position a notes receivable which is long-term and there's an equivalent interest income which is also a long-term all as well, of course, everything should be reported under investing activities because it's a non-current asset. No? So, the query for slide number 10, what if you only encounter interest income and nothing else? It was mentioned as interpretation, you report it as part of operating activities. But just in case there's no option for operating activities, report it as investing activities. Next, interest expense, still operating. Just in case operating is not given, report it as, this time, financing activity. Next, dividend income. Report it as operating activity. Just in case it's not given, report it as investing activity. And finally, dividends paid to owners, report it as an outflow under financing activity. But just in case there's no option for such, report it as operating activity. Okay, now, paano nyo maalala itong slide number 10? If we can see, all the interest income and interest expense with dividend income is falling under operating activities. So hindi na siya mahirap alalahanin, diba? Everything should be under operating activities. But except for dividends paid to owners, financing activities. Oh, ganun na siya kasimple maalala. Lahat nag-fall sa operating activities. Items under interest income and expense with dividend income. Ang hindi lang is dividend paid, which is financing. So, dalawang activities lang inalala out of the 4 items. Pero option 2, the next option, just in case wala yung option 1 sa choices or hindi given, it was not stated, or ayaw ng entity, hindi yun ang practice ng entity, hindi option 1 yung practice niya, sabi dito, option 2 can be a basis, can be reported under option 2. Yan. In interest income, investing. Interest expense, financing. In dividend income, investing activity. Dividends paid, operating activities. So, I hope this slide number 10 will help you remember those items. Nakasama rin siya kasi usually itong 4 na items ang common error or mistakes when it comes to the different items to be reported in the statement of cash flows. So, I hope you remember this one. Okay. I'm done with direct and indirect method. I already mentioned the definitions, the 3 activities and examples, the summary. So I guess I'm done with past 7 for the statement of cash flows. Okay. So please remember those items. Sir, pwede pa zoom in. Zoom in. I'm sorry. Ito siguro yan. Here. Okay na yan? Oops. Let's read some queries for past 7 before we have a quizzer. Sorry, chat box. Provisions. Okay, someone did a summary for provisions. Pa-correct po. Operating activities, current assets and liab, current liab, correct. Investing, NCA, correct. Financing, non-current liab and operating, correct. Ma-advantage ng gumagawa ng FS, yeah. They say statement of cash flows is the hardest way, FS to prepare. But basically the technique is you have it on the last part or on the last, as the last FS you prepare, because it should be a balancing item with the statement of financial position. If lalabas yan, yung option 1 ang best answer, yes, for these 4 items. However, in the industry or in actual practice, it might depend on the entity's practice. There are entities that are using specifically option 2. Ang sinasabi ng standard na ito for past 10 is okay if in case you are using option 2 for these 4 items. Parang ganun in the actual practice or industry. But for board exam sake or purposes, interpretation, you stick with option 1 if that is the choice or the best option or choice. But wala yung option 1, we are jumping with option 2 as the next disclosure for the said items. What does it mean by if it's not given? If it is not given, what do you mean? If it is not given, if in slide number 10, these are the only items and there's no other given info of related items for interest income, interest expense, sabi ng guide natin, you use option 1 as a disclosure for the said activities. Pero, yan, parang general rule for option 1. And Ano po ulit preferred methods, sir, between direct and indirect? In past seven interpretation, it only mentioned direct method, indirect method, but there's no preference for such. You can use indirect method while at the same time using direct method din kasi again, we only use indirect method for operating activities, but for investing and financing, only direct method is being used. So there's no actual preference, but both methods can be used. Uh, yes, yes, correct. Direct all activities, indirect operating things. For presentation of operating activities, required ba yung paggamit ng indirect method or encouraged use? Ayun nga, I think I already answered that one. Hindi naman required. It's an option. You can use indirect method. Usually in financial accounting, get ready for the chapter for cash flows. We often ask under operating activities to use indirect method. Kasi ang unahin dyan na i-computing sa net income, then increase or decrease ng current assets or liabilities, plus or minus non-cash expenses or income. So, yun yung test talaga sa past 7 ng financial accounting, indirect method. Pero kasi direct method, the simplest. Total cash inflow lang minus total cash outflow. Saan na yun? Yes daw. Last daw na gawin is cash flows. Yeah, I agree. Una is financial position, cash flow. Yeah. My new quiz ulit aside sa quiz 1B. Please refer to our calendar. Let's check the calendar. May nagtatanong ng quiz. Pag natapos tayo today, wala pang quiz, guys. Ayan no, July 5. Please check your calendar uploaded in the Canvas. The next quiz for everything I am discussing now and on July 2 is July 5. Yeah, only quizzer. So I'll just finish the messages and we're gonna do quizzer so we can finish early and we're gonna rest for the rest of the holiday. If there's no other info given regarding interest income operating, past 7, yeah. Oh, sorry. Accept. Sorry. Super late na tumata. May 17 sa waiting room. Hindi pa pala no. Yeah. Guys, please next time come on time. I should not accept you anymore. Makapasok before quizzer. Incline. Pa-check daw po 18 of them. Okay. So, okay guys. Can we use our chat box now? We are now gonna have your favorite quizzer. This time covering the PFRS 13, past 37, and past 7. Everyone ready to have our quizzer before we leave for tonight? Before you have your attendance again for June 28 session? Everyone? Ayan, ready na daw. Okay, let's have our quizzer. Here we go. All right. Halo-halo na ito for the 3 accounting standards we had for tonight. So here we go. Question number 1, quizzer. One of the conditions that must be satisfied in order to recognize revenue in a transaction involving the rendering of services over a contractual period is the stage of completion of the transactions, and the end of the reporting period can be measured reliably. Which of the following methods for determining the stage of completion of a contract involving the rendering of services are specifically referred to in PFRS 15 as being acceptable? I think PFRS 13 and 15 is together for this question. Roman numeral 1, costs incurred to date as a percentage of estimated total cost of the transaction. I think that's for advanced accounting topic for percentage of completion for construction accounting. Revenue side daw kasi siya so number 2, advances received to date of percentage of the total amount receivable. Survey of work performed, the Roman numeral 4, revenue to date divided by total contract revenue. Okay. Mukhang revenue PFRS 15 itong question 1. Nevertheless, we're gonna answer. So, everyone, Letter A, B, C, or D included as a part of revenue recognition as far as PFRS 15 is concerned. So, mukhang iba yung nailagay doon sa quiz. Pero well. Anyway, fair value. Yan. The correct answer is, yan, halo-halo na ang ating. The correct answer is letter B. Please just remember, once we reach PFRS 15 again, Roman numeral 1 and 3, cost incurred to date as a percentage of estimated total cost, and Roman numeral 3, surveys of work performed. Roman number 1 is letter B. Next. Okay, which is incorrect concerning recognition of revenue? Yan. Letter A, revenue from rendering of services over an extended contractual period shall be recognized by reference to the stage of completion of the transaction at balance sheet date. Letter B, interest revenue shall be recognized on a time proportion basis that does not take into account the effective yield on the asset. Letter C, royalty revenue shall be recognized on an accrual basis in accordance with the substance of the relevant agreement. Letter D, dividend revenue shall be recognized when the stockholder's right to receive payment is established. Sagutan na lang natin. Parang so number 2, the correct answer, incorrect daw kasi when it comes to revenue. The correct answer is letter B. As in boy, interest revenue shall be recognized on a time proportion basis that does not take into account the effective yield on assets. So number 2 is letter B. Number 3, yan. Review for revenue. In a normal sale, generally, the most uncertain factor in the revenue recognition process is uncertain part daw. So letter A, the seller's fulfillment of its responsibility in the transaction. Letter B, the measurability of the resources or item received by the seller. Letter C, the realizability of the resource or item received by the seller. Letter D, the relevance of the resource or item received by the seller. The most uncertain factor daw sa number 3. A, B, C, or D? All right. The correct answer for number 3 is letter C. The most uncertain factor is the realizability of the resource or item received by the seller. Number 4, a company manufacturing and selling consumable products has come out with an offer to refund the cost of purchase within 1 month of sale if the customer is not satisfied with the product. When should the company recognize the revenue? Letter A, when goods are sold to the customers. Letter B, after 1 month of sale. Letter C, only if goods are not returned by the customers after the period of 1 month. Letter D, at the time of sale along with an offset to revenue for the refund liability for the products expected to be returned. Kailan tayo recognize ang revenue sa transaction in number 4? A, B, C, or D? Yan. Okay. Number 4, the correct answer is letter D as in dog. At the time of sale, along with the offset to revenue for the refund liability for the products expected to be returned. So number 4 is letter D. Let's move forward. So review pala ng revenue recognition. Number 5, a computer chip manufacturing company sells its products to its distributors for onward sales to the ultimate customers. Due to frequent fluctuations in the market prices for these goods, the company has a price protection clause in the distribution agreement that entitles it to raise additional billings in case of upward price movement. Another clause in the distributor's agreement is that the company can at any time reduce its inventory by buying back goods at the cost at which it is sold the goods to the distributors. Distributors pay for the goods within 60 days from the sale of goods to them. So, when should the company recognize the revenue? On sale of goods to the distributors. Letter A, when the goods are sold to the distributors. Letter B, when the distributors pay to the company the cost of the goods. Letter C, when goods are sold to the distributors, provided estimated additional revenue is also booked under the protection clause based on the past experience. Letter D, when the distributor sells goods to the ultimate customers and there is no uncertainty with respect to the price protection clause or the buyback of goods. What's your answer for number 5? A, B, C, or D? When should the company recognize revenue on sale of goods to its distributors daw? Number 5. All right. Number 5, the answer is letter D as in dog. When the distributor sells goods to the ultimate customers and there is no uncertainty with respect to the price protection clause of or the buyback of goods. Okay. Next, number 6. Revenue is recognized at the time of sale under the following. Saan kayang method? Letter A, cost recovery method. The outcome of the performance obligation cannot be reasonably measured, but the entity expects to recover the costs incurred in satisfying the performance obligation. Letter B, collection method, when cash is collected. Letter C, percentage of completion method. The performance obligation is satisfied over time. Letter D, sales method, when goods are sold on credit. The performance obligation is satisfied when the goods are transferred to the customer. So, what's the answer for letters number 6? A, B, C, or D? All right. For number 6, revenue is recognized at the time of sale under letter D as in dog, sales method when goods are sold on credit. Okay. Labas na tayo dyan sa revenue. Let's have number 7. True or false? A provision differs from other liabilities in that there is a greater uncertainty about the timing and amount of settlement. True or false, number 7? Provision differs daw, different from other liabilities because greater uncertainty daw about the timing and amount of settlement. True or false? The correct answer for number 7 is true. A provision differs from other liabilities that there's greater uncertainty. Lahat ng liabilities na wala sa past 37, all certain yan eh. Certain na lahat ay liabilities. Kaya, provision is the uncertain one. So, 7 is true. Okay? Number 8. Contingent liabilities are not reported in the financial statements but may be disclosed in the notes to financial statements if the likelihood of the unfavorable outcome is possible. True or false, number 8? Naka-review natin yan. Contingent liabilities daw naman ngayon, hindi daw rin na-report sa financial statements, but maybe more of disclosure lang sa notes to CFAS because it's more of possible item. Okay. The correct answer for number 8 is true. Nabanggit natin yan. Next. Number 8 is true. Number 9. Contingent assets are not reported daw in the statement of financial position. True or false? Number 9. True or false? Okay. The correct answer is contingent asset is not reported. True. Baka nga notes disclosure lang siya, diba? Depende kung naging probable siya. So, number 9 is true, not reported. Let's move forward. Number 10. Which of the following terms is associated with recognizing a provision? A. Possible but not probable. B. Likely. C. Remote. D. Probable. Okay. Number 10. What's your answer? Sana natutunan nyo or na-review nyo, na-remind kayo sa past 37, yung mga English terms na probable, possible, have a different interpretation in financial accounting. No? So, pag provision pala, specific English term for letter D as in dog. Sana wag nyo nakalimutan. Provision is probable, above 50% chance na it will be a liability. Okay? Next, number 11. To record an environmental liability, the cost associated with the liability is letter A, expense, B, included in the carrying amount of the related long-lived asset, letter C, included in a separate account, letter D, none of the choices. Environmental liability might be one of the samples or might be one of the estimated liabilities. Environmental liability is sa financial accounting, i-account nyo yan na oil spill. Halimbawa, entity nyo is San Miguel, tapos nagkaroon oil spill. Environmental liability yun. Kaso yun malamang. So, yun. Ano kaya siya? The cost associated with the liability is number 11. What's your answer? A, B, C, or D? Tandaan nyo na lang, environmental liability, the cost associated with the liability is letter B, as in boy, included in the carrying amount of the related long-lived asset. Nevertheless, in financial accounting, i-accounting nyo yan, mas ma-appreciate nyo yung journal entries niyan. Pag nakita nyo na sa financial accounting side. So B, cost kasi yung usapan na side. Hindi siya mismo sa environmental liability na side. So cost, included in the carrying amount of the long-lived asset. Letter B as in boy. Okay, let's move forward. Number 12. Yan. An electronic store is running a promotion where for every video game purchase, the customer receive a coupon upon checkout to purchase a second game at 50% discount. The coupon will expire in 1 year. The store normally recognizes a gross profit margin of 40% of the selling price on video games. How would the store account for the purchase using the discount coupon? Letter A, the reduction in sales price attributed to the coupon is recognized as premium expense. Letter B, difference between the cost of the video game and the cash received is recognized as premium expense. Letter C, the premium expense is not recognized. Or letter D, the difference between the cost of the video game and the selling price prior to the coupon is recognized as premium expense. What's your answer? A, B, C, or D for number 12? So ito na yung sinasabi natin sample kanina. So video game, may promotion, provision siya pasok. How would the store account for a purchase using the discount coupon? Ayan. The correct answer is, for number 12, letter B as in boy. The difference between the cost of the video game and the cash received is recognized as premium expense. Please remember, sa financial accounting, mas ma-appreciate nyo yan. Naka-debit kasi yung cash dyan eh. Naka-debit din si premium expense. Hindi, yung premium expense, may cost siya na equivalent. Let's say, for example, 20 pesos. Pero magbabayad pa daw si customer, for example, ng 5 piso para makuha niya, ma-avail niya yung in exchange of the coupon na video game. So, ang magiging account nun, yung 20 pesos na premium expense, mababawasan ng cash. Kaya parang debit cash, 5 pesos. Premium expense, 15 pesos lang. That's letter B. No? Pag may cash na involved, binabanggit natin yan a while ago. So, yan, mas ma-appreciate nyo yan pag nag-solve na kayo sa financial accounting. So, again, number 12 is letter B as in boy. Okay? Ayan, someone did the journal entry. Oo, yan, ganyan. Letter number 13, provisions are contingent liabilities, which are accrued because the likelihood of the unfavorable outcome is, letter A, virtually certain, letter B, greater than 50%, letter C, at least 75%, or letter D, possible. Naku, naaral natin yan. Provisions daw contingent liable. Ina-accrue si provision. Because when it comes to percentage, the liability is, number 13, letter B, greater than 50%. Or in short, 51% or more. Diba? And so number 13 is letter B. Mukhang marami nakakuha sa letter B. Good job. Number 14, which of the following is a proper way to report? Ayan, I hope you remembered what is a contingent asset. Considered probable contingent asset, guys. Letter A is an asset. B, deferred revenue. C, disclosure only. B, do not disclose or accrue. No disclosure or accrual required. Number 14, what's your answer? Ayan, ang bilis ng number 14 na answer sa chat box. Mukhang naalala nila. What is a contingent asset na probable? We remember, hindi siya letter A. Hindi siya letter A. Hindi yan asset talaga na nasa statement of financial position, right? Because number 14 is only letter C as a note disclosure. So, good job na alala nyo si contingent asset na probable. Letter C. Disclosure only or notes disclosure. Okay? Next. Labas na tayo ng past 37. 15. One of the provisions or benefits of the statement of cash flows is that it helps user evaluate financial flexibility. Which of the following explanations is a description of financial flexibility? Letter A, the entity's ability to pay debts on maturity. Letter B, the nearness to cash of assets and liabilities. Letter C, the entity's ability to invest in a number of projects with different objectives and costs. Letter D, the entity's ability to respond and adapt to financial adversity and unexpected needs and opportunities. Financial flexibility daw sa statement of cash flow. So, pag binasa nyo ng buo yung past 7, banggit niya yung financial flexibility somehow. So, kailan nga ba naging financial flexible ang isang entity? Number 15, answer is financial flexibility. Letter A, the entity's ability to pay debts on maturity. Letter A, number 15. Number 16, ayan. Cash advances and loans from bank overdrafts. Ano kaya yun? Should be reported as A, operating activities, B, investing activities, C, financing activities, D, other significant non-cash activities. Tama, yung number 15 kanina, parang solvency yung concept ng financial flexibility. If you're gonna have it in financial management, yung solvency nakasulat doon financial flexibility side or yun, kaya siya sa 15 kanina naging letter A. Parang solvency siya sa mismo strict na financial account. Ito naman, number 16, anong sagot nyo ngayon? Cash advances and loans from bank overdrafts should be reported as, ano ba yung bank overdraft, guys? Bank overdraft is the current liability, you know? So ano kaya yung cash na rated doon? The correct answer is number 16, letter A will be reported as operating activities. Oh, sana hindi nyo nakalimutan, bank overdraft is current liability. Sa summary natin kanina, current liability is falling under operating activities, right? Also, 16 is letter A. Let's move forward. 17. To arrive at net cash provided by operating activities, it is necessary to operate or report revenue and expenses on a cash basis. This is done by letter A, re-recording all income statement transactions that directly affect cash in a separate cash flow journal. Letter B, eliminating the effects of income statement transactions that did not result in a corresponding increase or decrease in cash. Letter C, eliminating all transactions that have not current in future effect on cash, such as depreciation from the net income computation. Or letter D, estimating the percentage of income statement transactions that were originally reported in a cash basis and projecting this amount to the entire array of income statement transactions. Net cash computation daw ng operating activities. It is necessary to report revenue and expenses, cash basis. How will you do so? Number 17, answer. The correct answer is letter B as in boy, eliminating the effects of income statement transactions that did not result in a corresponding increase or decrease in cash. 17 is boy. All right. Lapit na tayo. Number 18. Ay, nabanggit natin. How should an unrealized gain on foreign currency transactions be presented in the statement of cash flows? A, it should be ignored as it is an unrealized gain. B, as an adjustment to the net income under operating activities. C, as an inflow under financing activities because it arises from foreign currency transaction. Letter D, it should be disclosed in the notes of financial statements by way of abundant precaution. What's your answer? 18? A, B, C, or D? Number 18, the correct answer is letter B. As in boy, as an adjustment to the net income under operating activities. Remember, pag operating activities, pwede kasi siya sa indirect method. And unrealized gain is recorded there. Diba? Unrealized gain should be deducted back in net income for indirect method. Okay, so 18 is letter B as in boy. Number 19, an entity other than a financial institution received dividends naman from its investment in shares. Oh, dividends. How should it disclose in the dividends received in the statement of cash flows? A, operating cash inflow. B, either as operating cash inflow or as investing cash inflow. C, either as operating cash inflow or financing cash inflow. And letter D might be as an adjustment in the operating activities section of the cash flow because it is included in the net income for the year and as cash inflows in the finance activities section of the statement of cash flows. What is the best answer? Number 19. A, B, C, or D? Dividends received. Yan. Mukhang maraming sumasagot na. The correct answer is letter B. Either as operating cash inflow or as investing cash inflow. Finally, number 20. Hindi ko makita, wait lang. Which of the following would affect both financing and operating activities? A, collection of loans to other entities. B, issuance of equity shares, operating activities. Letter C, payment of dividends. Or letter D, redemption of debts. Can affect both financing and operating activities though. What is the best answer? A, B, C, or D? Debts is, which affect both financing and operating activities. So financing involves debts and equity or share transactions. Operating involves current assets and current liabilities. So saan dyan ang meron lahat sila? Number 20, the correct answer is letter D as in dog, the best answer, the redemption of debts. Or redemption is a business law transaction for like refinancing eh. Pag umutang ka, financing, di ba? Hindi mo na bayaran. Tapos and i-redeem back mo. Letter D. Redemption is the term. Baka kasi na-misinterpret na redeem to redeem shares. Parang gano'n hindi. Redemption, yung sa business law transaction. So, nag-finance siya. And may operating activities related. What if there's an interest related and all? Diba? Oh. So, number 20, letter D, redemption of debts. So, that ends our quizzer for tonight. I'll upload the quizzer as part of a review with the supporting best answer questions. No? So, that ends our session for tonight. I'll upload your attendance form in a while. Let's check your calendar, guys. On July 2, we will have no quiz as you can notice here. Tuloy-tuloy tayo, 5 standards tayo sa July 2. Sa July 5 tayo may quiz 2. Quiz 2 is covering week 2, kaya tinawag ko siyang quiz 2, okay? So everything today and July 2 session. So take note of that one for 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours for duration kasi mas mahaba yan ngayon for July 5. Okay, here comes now your attendance sheet. Thank you for attending our session for tonight.